All right. Hey, it's Steve Marshall in for Jenny D, sitting down with Dr. Kohli. She's the 9 News medical expert. She's also accepting new patients at her Cherry Creek Heart location in Aurora, Colorado. And we're going to be talking about the whole step counting thing today and getting enough steps in and all of that. Yeah. Where did this 10,000 steps a day, everybody with their little Apple Watches, where did that come from?
It's funny because in medical school, I heard about 10,000 steps, but it wasn't from science.
Okay.
It was based on a Japanese pedometer company in 1965 that came up with this 10,000 number as a marketing ploy.
Okay.
Because it was a nice round number, and it looked very good in Japanese characters to write that 10,000, and somehow it stuck after that. But it's interesting, even though it wasn't rooted in science, it actually ends up being an inflection point for where we sort of start getting diminishing returns on our investment. So after 10 to 12,000 steps,
okay,
some people try to hit 20 or 25,000.
Right.
You don't get as much bang for your buck.
Okay, so anywhere between 10 and let's say 20 is good, and then after that it's kind of a iffy.
Nope. So I would say if you're under 3,000, and I have plenty of patients who are,
okay,
you got a target sign on you. Something bad is going to happen.
Okay.
You're not going to age well. You're probably going to be high risk for falls, because think about what happens when we're walking. We're building, obviously, our core strength, right?
Right.
We're building our flexibility, our balance. We're lubricating our joints.
Okay.
And so arthritis and chronic pain and all the things that happen to us as we age are not a lot less likely. And as we slowly start increasing those number of steps, we're also obviously building our cardiovascular, cardiorespiratory system, and we're becoming more fit. And then we start to lose weight. So if you look at those thresholds, less than 3,000, dangerous.
Okay.
You got to get off that couch. 3,000 to 5,000, bare minimum for maintaining your strength, your flexibility, your ability to be independent as you age.
Right.
So you don't need somebody to help you to the bathroom or help you take a bath
Sure.
or anything like that. 5,000 to 7,500, we start to see some of those cardiorespiratory benefits. The 7,500 to 10,000 is when we start to get into weight loss.
Okay.
And we start to get more insulin sensitivity and a lot of those benefits. So those are kind of your categories or boxes, depending on your fitness goals.
Yeah.
I say for most older adults over the age of 60, you want to try to hit at least 7,500. That's the bare minimum.
Okay.
If you can get to 10,000, great. After 12,000, you're starting to lose kind of bang for your buck.
Is it pretty standard that like 60 is that kind of limit where you start noticing things going downhill quicker?
It is for most people, but I would say, Steve, for many of us, it starts in our 40s.
Okay.
So I consider actually our 40s one of our highest risk periods, because they're going to determine how we end up in our 60s and 70s, whether we have that heart attack, whether we have that stroke. So changing, I like to say, the trajectory of how you're aging starts in your 30s and 40s, in your midlife. A lot of people wait till they get to 55 or 60 before they start thinking, oh, now I've hit menopause. Now let me think about how I can age better.
Right.
But it's actually, you have to start earlier, because by then it's almost too late. You've already started to obviously put down plaque, which is cholesterol deposits around your heart. You've already made a lot of changes, that can impact your health. And if you look at the data out there, for most average Americans, our organs are aging even faster than our chronological age, which means that we're not doing a good job of preventive measures and controlling risks. So really being thoughtful in your 30s and 40s about what you eat, how much you move, and what your weight is going to determine how you age when you get older.
Now, because when I was in my 40s, I
thought you were still in your 40s.
Thank you very much. I lost a ton of weight, got really healthy, started eating cleaner and all of that. I have noticed that I'll go through cycles where there's this time it's been about almost a year, where I kind of have fallen into some bad habits, and then I'll get myself out of them at some point. Is that as bad? Or, like if I have a 6-month time span, or somebody has a few months where they're just not working out all that much, or walking as much as they should, eating a little more poorly, can you then, let's say, catch up?
I wouldn't worry too much about life, because life happens, right?
Yeah, right.
But I do want you, and I really appreciate that you're being mindful about falling off the wagon, but getting back on.
Right.
So really, overall, when we're thinking about this, we're playing the long game here, right? And we want to make sure that, our genes are, I like to say, our hardware, and the lifestyle that we live is the software for how those genes get turned on. So that's the genetics and the epigenetics, how the genes get modified based on how much we exercise, how much we sleep, whether we stress out, whether we, get good nutrition. This all affects how the genes get turned on. So if you have a month or so when maybe you're not having the healthiest lifestyle, I don't think it's overall going to impact too much of your longevity. But what I don't want is for people, especially like I said, in that inflection period, for men, we call their 50s kind of when the testosterone level starts to go down, the metabolism starts to go down, menopause or andropause. And for women, of course, we have menopause when we lose our estrogen. So the fact that this is this what we call the biggest inflection point in our life in terms of cardiovascular risk, dementia risk, aging risk, means we just have to be a little bit more careful. But I think paying attention to what you're doing, and you're not going to hit every pillar every day. It's eat, sleep, live, and play. Those are your kind of 4 pillars, right? So eat, you want to, eat nutritious food, Mediterranean diet. Sleep 7 to 9 hours a night. Live is the activity. You want to make sure at least 30 minutes for at least 5 days a week of moderate intensity activity like swimming or biking or jogging or dancing, something like that. And then play is the socializing. That really helps us age better too. So you can't necessarily hit all those 4 pillars every single day. But if you are mostly hitting most of them most of the time and being mindful about it, I think that'll help you live better.
That's good to know. All right, so bottom lining, the bottom steps you think for a day, you said were what?
7,500 at the minimum.
There we go.
But I'd love for you, if you're trying to lose weight, to get closer to 10,000.
Yeah.
But get those at least 7,500. And here's the way to think about it. It doesn't have to be every day you get 7,500.
Okay.
So if your average is 7,500, even that predicts risk. So what I sometimes do is I binge on the steps on the weekend. Right? Because during the week I'm busy in the office and I'm running around and I don't always hit my goals. So then when the weekend comes, I'll take an extra long walk. I also love what I call micro activity or these exercise snacks where you're sitting it says every 30 to 60 minutes, you need to take an exercise snack. Which means you get up and walk to the bathroom, you walk up the stairs, you walk to the water cooler, you go talk to another friend, just some kind of movement. So that you're not sitting for 3 or 4 hours at a time on your computer, because that's really when you start to have a lot of those risks. And we know that being sedentary doesn't just cause heart disease, even cancer. Even if your body mass index is normal, meaning you're not obese. You have a significantly higher risk of getting cancer, dementia, and heart disease if you're sedentary. So having those little exercise snacks, I think, really helps. You don't necessarily have to get all those steps in one burst. But as long as you're getting them in. And I say it's about 500 steps an hour. That's what you kind of want to roughly get. So if you do 500 steps an hour, you have 12 hours in the day. You're going to get to at least 6,000.
That's good. That's good to know that it's an average, because if you have an off day. And then I know it's not even for older people or as you get into middle age or whatever, because a lot of kids nowadays they sit around all the time. They're on their phones, and that's where the habit forming comes in,
That's exactly right. And I'm also encouraging a lot of my older people, and I want you to try this and report back to me, walking backwards. So that's a really cool thing, because what it does is it activates muscles we don't normally activate. It activates our brain, so it actually can help reduce improve our cognitive function, reduce our risk of cognitive decline. And it builds our balance, strength, and flexibility, because for those same reasons, you're using your core in a different way. So the way I kind of do it is for every 10 minutes you're walking forwards, you want to maybe walk 1 or 2 minutes backwards. Make sure you're safe doing it. Make sure the area is cleared and everything. You don't want to have a fall or anything like that. But experiment a little bit with that, because that actually activates your body in a different way and can be really beneficial.
That is excellent. No, thank you very much for stopping by. So there you go. Get out and get walking and get healthier.